So let's just bring out Dave Merkin. And I take it in high school, you didn't get a golden thumb.
No, not in that form, no.
Well, we're going to give you one tonight. Thank you so much for coming to Ebertfest.
Thank you so much. I love that this is actually Roger's actual thumb. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's fantastic. You can never have enough hardware. That's what we always say in the business. You want to get as many of these things as possible. And this is great. This is a big honor because he always meant a lot to me. I got a thumbs up for holding the thumbs up from the photographer. Okay. Great. Now they take it back. You see, there's only one in the whole. They don't tell you that. They pretend we all get one, but they offer us to buy it. It's like $2,000 or something. You got to make money. Got to make money.
And we're going to bring out on stage with you Pam Powell, and Chuck Kablinski. I bet you got a golden thumb in high school.
Oh, I can't tell you what I got in high school.
Have a seat.
Great.
And I just have to tell you one thing about tomorrow. We're going to have a live podcast from the stage here at 9 o'clock with Sam Fragoso, and he's going to be interviewing some people from Ebertfest. So if you want to come early, the doors will open at 9, and Sam Fragoso will have a live podcast from this stage.
Music. That's like, as I was looking around at the audience, and I've seen this film several times, obviously, and now seeing it with an audience several years later, everyone's like dancing in their seats and singing along. Music is a huge part of this movie. Can you tell me a little bit about incorporating that and the trials and tribulations that you might have gone through to get all of that?
Yeah, the music was important to distract from the other crappy elements of the film. So it's a great secret. You just use great music. No, it really is true. If you use great music, it really helps everything else really seem great. My favorite thing about film is moving a camera to music and figuring out cuts to music and having that, music video. I was making music videos in my head as a little kid before they existed. I would listen to records and do visuals in my head of the records I loved, and even change the order of the songs and play them off an album in a different order to make a story. And that was all visual. So it was always my dream. And any film that had great music mixed with visuals was always my favorite thing. The Graduate is a huge, huge influence on me, and that's some of the best use of that. And Mad, 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 Mad World has an amazing score mixed in, very moving and funny simultaneously with the music. And yes, Romy and Michele's music, it was always, from the time I was first reading the script, I was, jotting down and figuring out exactly where the music was going to come. It was a huge opportunity. And I knew I was going to be given a pretty good budget to get a lot of things. So I just researched the shit out of everything in the 80s and a certain amount in the 90s and put all my favorite things. And they're very, very deeply thought out what every song was. And it comes to a point of the movie, I think we can all agree after seeing this, this is without a doubt the most powerful film about female empowerment that's ever been made, right? I can hear from your response. Yeah, there it is. There it is. But no,
actually, Lisa Kudrow and Mira Sorvino are great in the movie.
All the actresses are amazing, and it was the way the movie came to me. Thanks for asking that. But the way the movie came to me is I was I was running The Simpsons, and I was starting to get offers to direct films, and I was thinking of writing film, and what was always in my head is I wanted to do a really strong female comedy because there's not enough of them. There's this idiot point of view that women aren't funny, and they're brilliant. They're geniuses. I think that females are superior to males. That's a whole other thing. We'll talk about that.
I would agree.
But yeah, see, it works. And I was thinking of that, and then the script came where the women were as funny as any male comedy team was going to be. And then throughout the entire film, it's one strong female character after another. Now, even though they're idiots, they're strong. idiots. And that's an important thing, you know. And so there's no reason you can't do movies like that and have strong female parts like that. So in figuring out the music, coming back, I wanted the music to be, and this is nothing against females, I wanted the music to be ballsy, because that's the way we describe it, but I wanted it to be very strong and not have all this, you know, really cute, sweet music. There's so many female films that when there's girls on the screen, the music has to be soft. It has to be sweet. I wanted to go absolutely the opposite direction of that and have it show that women can be just as strong in the music, have very strong music behind them the whole time. And there were many conversations about this, but it was one of the things that freaked the studio out. And because it's true, they just come at you and they go, can it be more feminine? Can it be, you know, easier going? Because, you know, they worry about those things. And it became a huge comical fight, because it was an odd thing, because, you know, we test movies. The music was testing through the roof from the very beginning. It was in the 90s, the music. And everyone was writing on the card, where can we buy the soundtrack? Where can we buy the soundtrack? And then the studio comes to me and goes, we'd like to change the music. And it was like, are we doing these cards? Are we going to pay attention to them or not? And it became a long, protracted fight that ultimately worked out okay. I lost maybe 2 tunes I had to give up. And they weren't replaced with anything terrible. They were replaced with something that was not quite as good, but no one would notice besides me. But you know, you get crazy when you do a movie. I was in the middle of this music discussion, being positive about it, with the studio, and I was at you know, the kind of thing you'd find incredibly creepy, a creepy Hollywood Oscar party with a lot of super successful other creeps. You know, we're horrible in Hollywood. Let's not pretend that anybody is nice out there. But anyway. A very big producer-director, Oscar winner, was producing, was with his friend, who was also another very successful director. I believe at least Oscar nominated. I can't remember if not an Oscar winner or not. And the two of them had worked on a movie together 10 years earlier. And I was, you know, bitching and moaning about having to fight about this music. And he said to me, he said, you know, you got to calm down. You know, you can't get too involved. You know, you really have to work on, you know, to figure out compromise. And then the person who he had produced the movie for turned to him and said, you know, when we were doing, this is a very famous film. I can't say who it is because this is all streamed.
Oh, come on. No, we won't tell anybody.
Yeah, you won't tell anybody.
No, we're streaming, so.
We're streaming, and they sued Chaz. She's got like 8 lawsuits just from this festival. So it's a tough thing. And he was telling me, you got to calm down. And then the person he produced the movie for says, you know, when we were making X, this huge movie, you changed that song. And he said, well, I had every right to try another song. You did not ask me before you did. They got into the same huge argument they had gotten in 10 years earlier, right in front of me when they were telling me to calm down. So this is what happens. It becomes such a passionate thing, and you're so invested in it, and you have so many layers as to why you choose something and a reason that making movies, the way to describe what it's like, the hurt never goes away. That's what it is. You get no enjoyment ever. It's just you always think of the things that were the problem. So that's how healthy we are.
Besides wanting to do something with the music, what was the impetus to make something about the cruelties of high school?
Even though I was like the big football hero in high school.
I don't know why that got a laugh.
Yeah, why does that always people... No, you know, I had great difficulties in high school. I had a lot of friends who had great difficulties in high school. There's not enough movies, you know, particularly back then, that show that the people that don't fit in can really go on and do something interesting. And I love these movies. I love Clueless, you know. But these are centrist people, you know. It's easier to sell that. Because you have someone that's, you know, smack dab in the center, someone's a little bit off center, and by the end of the movie, they're pulled to the center. You know, that's sort of the message, is go right down the center of everything, and you're going to be successful. I wanted to show people who didn't do that, who were weirdos, and celebrate the weirdos, and see what the weirdos go through in high school, and also basically expose what most people go through in high school, which is a horrible, horrible time. And that's something to celebrate because, yeah, there you go. One guy is admitting that his high school was a nightmare. Good. And the rest of you are in denial. But that's fine. That's fine. It's cool.
So, this was a play first, and then the script had bounced around for about 5 years. When it came your way, how did you put your own personal mark on this as you were making the film?
Because you're coming at it they don't ever talk enough about this, and it's great. This was a play called Ladies' Room, but it's not really this at all. Romy and Michele in the play Ladies' Room were side characters that occupied less than 10 minutes of the play. And they were two identical characters, and one of them was Lisa Kudrow, who I knew. And the actual star of the Ladies' Room play was a woman I was dating at the time, and so I was aware of the play. It was weird. And Romy and Michele were hilarious, but they were both screaming at the top of their lungs and in a one-note situation. But they were hilarious for this little tiny burst that had added up to 10 minutes. Then, as I was thinking about, I wanted to do a strong women's film that had women being as funny as, like, Dumb and Dumber, that kind of a thing, a woman comedy team. And I was thinking about writing it. This script got sent to me. It was in development hell, as we call it, for about 5 years. And I instantly just saw, this relationship was brilliant. Robin Schiff writes these characters, and she writes them perfectly. The dialogue that they're saying to each other. The reason it was in this kind of development purgatory is it had structural issues that needed to be fixed. It had emotional issues that needed to be fixed. And I could go through, and tell you everything. I mean, a perfect example would be when they're at the prom, in the original script, she's getting ready, waiting to dance with Billy. And she goes, this is going to be the greatest night of my life. And then it cuts back in the script to them in the present day at that point. And she goes, oh, it was really terrible when he didn't show up. And I said, no, we got to see him show up. Not show up. And for the two of them to dance together. That was something I thought. I thought that the way that relationship was, I wanted to see Michele save Romy, and that cements the relationship. It makes it deeper. It makes it it's a much more emotional scene to see Mira heartbroken, to see Romy heartbroken, and Michele pull her out of that. And that led to me using that song time after time there. And so it was a nice emotional moment. Now, the way the script originally had a suggestion of a dance scene, it was going to be a John Travolta dance scene that was just a reference for no particular reason to Saturday Night Fever. I think Always a Woman was the song. And that had no emotional resonance. It had nothing to do with anything that had come before. It was just kind of an off-the-wall thing. And by having that song first and that moment first, I then could make it into a callback and do the most important thing is that last dance is hilarious, but it's also emotionally resonant. It makes people cry as much as it makes people laugh. And that was part of deepening, and that went on, throughout. I also increased the surreal aspects of things. Had Michele get hit by a car, she was just walking before. And I mention that because that's literally Lisa Kudrow's favorite scene she ever shot, which is rolling across. There's one shot of her, it's a stunt woman otherwise, where she's going, ow, 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 ow. She still tells me that's the favorite thing she's ever done in her life. And yeah, so those are the kind of things that you would add, yeah.
Well, and you alluded to the fact that you did deepen that emotional bond between the two women. How do you get them? Do they know each other beforehand? And how did you establish that on camera? Because you really feel like they are best friends.
The trick to that, and I believe in this in all the projects I do, is rehearsal time. There's a lot of movies, believe it or not, and the budget kind of dictates this sometimes, and you have to fight for it. It's one of the things you have to fight for, is rehearsal time. And one of the things you do when you have rehearsal, you need a couple weeks, is it's not just a matter of going over the material. It's a matter of establishing relationships. And when I have people in films that are supposed to have intimate relationships with each other, and they're just meeting each other on the set and just doing a scene for the first time, I can see that it's not real, and there's going to be something that's missing behind the eyes. And so part of that rehearsal process is not only going over the material, which you don't want to overdo because then you're going to have dead performances at that point anyway, but you screw around a lot. You tell stories, and you start to actually break down barriers and create intimacy. And you do that by laughing together and telling embarrassing stories with each other. It's all kinds of things like that, so that you actually, and it's important too, not just for Lisa and Mira to connect, but also for the three of us to connect, because they have to trust me. And I try to create an atmosphere where an actor can try anything, do anything, not be embarrassed by doing that. And it worked great. You know, the three of us were just having huge amounts of fun and laughs, you know, in and around the work. And then, you know, Lisa and Mira became such close friends, they started excluding the hell out of me. And then I really knew it worked. You know, oh, you went where last night? Just to, okay, oh, great. No, it's part of what you want to happen, obviously, and then you do. Just what you're describing is what you see. And they're both, you know, such terrific actors. I mean, that's also the secret of any good comedy, and particularly if somebody's playing dumb, you want really talented, smart people. They're going to give you the best dumb performances because they understand the layers of that. And the great actors understand the commitment. And when you're doing silly comedy and surreal comedy, you need desperately, desperately serious commitment, you know, deadly commitment, you know, life and death. And that's what you get from all the actors in this. I mean, we cast very, very carefully, so that I'm just proud of all those performances and actors. They're all amazing. They really are.
I wanted to ask about that. How much of did you get involved in the casting? Because, you know, with Alan Cummings and Janine Garofalo and some of the other supporting actors were, I think, well cast.
No, I just showed up and they were there. I was so lucky. No, yeah, I was very, very involved.
I didn't know whether it was the casting director or
what you do is you find the best casting director, and it was a kind of a scary moment because they said, please use the head of casting at Disney. And, you know, with all the fucks you heard tonight, it's a Disney film, by the way. Enjoy that touchdown. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And it was Marsha Ross. She's head of casting. That's a scary thing because she's going to be the company line, you know. And I met with her, and we thought so much identically. And what she does is she brings you great people. She brings you a whole bunch of choices. But right from the start, her ground floor level is a pretty high level, and she gets it. So she brought me Alan Cumming, and I said yes. You know, it was, and then she'll bring me somebody else, and it wasn't Alan Cumming, and we didn't use them. So, but, you know, she brought me Alan Cumming. I already knew him from Circle of Friends, and I was a huge fan of his from that film. And then before I even asked her, he was there. And I would have asked for him eventually to try. But she brought, that's how much we were on the same page. And then other people were my friends, like Janine Garofalo I had worked with because I had written and directed on the Larry Sanders Show, and I knew Janine and loved her, and that part was so perfect for her. I knew Lisa a little bit. Julia Campbell, who plays Christy, it always cracks me up and almost makes me cry to watch her perform. She is the sweetest person. She is much nicer than anyone else in that whole film. They're all evil compared to her. And she has to play this horrible, horrible person again and again and again every time you watch the movie. It's hilarious to put her through that, actually. But and you have to teach her how to be mean because she doesn't do it naturally. So you really have to direct her. But she's such a brilliant actress, you kind of explain. And like one of the things I had to explain to her, because a nice person doesn't naturally come to this, is when she was being mean, she was just being mean. You know, sometimes people will be mean and they're just like a drill sergeant and they're just kind of scary. I said, no, you have to enjoy it. It has to get you off to be putting these people down. And you'll see her like suddenly stop and she'll go, and then she takes it and absorbs it, and she's that person. She's that person. And at that moment, I become incredibly attracted to her when she's truly mean. And that's my own problem. I keep forgetting this isn't therapy, but you know, just it can happen.
You know, you've been in the comedy game quite a while.
I'm an old man.
Yeah, and with the PC movement that has been happening over the years, it's definitely changed the approach to comedy. And I know with The Simpsons, there was the issue about Apu. What are your feelings about this, and how do you see this progressing and affecting comedy, whether it's stand-up or television or movies, as far as where this is going?
I think, you know, it's always been the same rule, and because I have been in this such a long time, I've gone through various stages of where a PC culture comes and, you know, starts to kind of censor things that used to be okay and maybe pull back too far and go too much forward. And I try and keep an even keel on that. You know, I went through a big fight with Congress. They didn't want us to do Itchy and Scratchy anymore on The Simpsons. Yeah, you say, you guys want to see cats and mice get ripped to shreds, you know, and the Congress was trying to take that away from you. And I realized that that was stupid, that that was going too far, and I refused to do that, you know, because what happened is people will self-censor, and they'll say, we can't do that anymore, and I say, show me the complaints, right? Show me the people that are complaining. They were non-existent. It was just them trying to self-censor before there was a problem. Now with the internet, somebody is mad about everything, which has always been the case, but it's never been so easy that your phone is on you. So you used to have to write a letter before, find an address, or find a phone number. Now it's instant. You can instantly attack anyone who even slightly annoys you, you know, and so you have to realize that that's always the case. And when you've been in comedy this long, there's always something that offends someone. And in fact, the best comedy always offends someone. If we say we're not going to offend anyone, no one is laughing. That's what happens. It becomes so soft and easy. The main thing that I look for is whether or not it's mean-spirited. And you try to show that you are having fun with everyone equally. And we're making, you know, that all the comedy that I do, if it's laughing at someone else, it doesn't go on very long before you're laughing at yourself and have to laugh at yourself as well. So whenever we say we're going to laugh at someone, we always say, and I'm completely willing to laugh at myself. Not myself. There's nothing funny. I'm totally on top of everything. But other people are, no, but I mean everybody. My comedy has always been, we are all idiots. The top level of human thinking is idiot. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know we don't know where we go when we die. We don't know what the universe is. We know nothing. So to have any kind of ego is ridiculous. We're all struggling as we're going through. And so we make fun of each other and ourselves. And so that's the philosophy. You can applaud that now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow, thank you.
And following up on Chuck's question, what do you do to stay on top of the comedy game and the trends in comedy and your creative process and
you try to always be plugged in to the latest greatest new thing. You know, I'm hungry for it. You know, comedy saved my life. You know, music saved my life and comedy saved my life because it allowed me to laugh at myself and laugh at the world and laugh at death, all these horrible things that happen to us. It's great if we can find some humor in there, you know, with all this, and it was a way for me to get through. So I'm always hungry for it, you know. So like when Broad City came along, it was like the second episode. I said, this is one of the best things I've ever seen, you know? And very, very influenced by Romy and Michele. They love Romy and Michele, but it was definitely the next step. And that's when you're thrilled. They say, oh, we had some kind of influence on this, and here's this fantastic female comedy team that are complete idiots. They're so aggressively idiotic, and yet they're brilliant simultaneously. And those women are brilliant. And it's great to see that. So you're always looking for the next thing. And you always try and be on top of that. You know, what Tina Fey and Robert Carlock did with Kimmy Schmidt and before that 30 Rock, just brilliant. And you're just thirsty for that all the time. You're just always looking for the next fix, basically.
And being smart is absolutely key in being able to play and bring these roles to life. And Lisa Kudrow, as I understand it, when she did the Post-it formula, that was like off the cuff. She's got a...
No?
No? Is that wrong? Did I read that wrong?
Lisa, you know, obviously, again, no one's going to see this. Lisa Kudrow is an idiot. And she has no, she's brilliant. She's a biologist, but that was written.
Okay.
That was written very carefully by Robin Schiff. And when I saw that, I said, wow, Robin, you did this research. And she goes, no, I made it up. So Robin Schiff, but she took a long time and made it up, and it's complete and total bullshit. In fact, some people, I've learned from the internet, have tried to do what Lisa says. They've blown up their entire garage. There's been about 18 deaths, but that's a Touchstone problem. They're the ones that are going to have to deal with that lawsuit. It's worth it for the comedy, you know. Sorry. It's the price of comedy.
Is there a different way in the way you direct a female comedian as opposed to a male comedian?
Well, I use a lot of nicknames for the females, like honey, get over here, stuff like that. It's all an individual for each actor. And it's fascinating. I mean, part of being a good director, there are certain directors that go in and they're very, you know, they're very egotistical, and they want to do everything their way, and they try and bend everyone to their will. And that often is not successful because you've made your actor uncomfortable, and the actor can't give you their best work if, in their brain. An actor is basically when you look at an actor, even though what you're seeing is a lot of confidence, you're basically seeing a big blob of self-doubt. And you have to help them through that, And one of the great things about having some performance background myself is how it's amazing. I've auditioned for movies where I had to go in, and you're just suddenly on the other side, and it's like day and night. Even though you've been in the seat for hundreds and hundreds of auditions, when you're suddenly being judged by the other people, it's so much more vulnerable. And so I always look at what an actor needs. So there are some, female actors that need this and they need that, and you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to create an environment where they, again, feel totally comfortable to try anything, do anything. And really, this is an honest thing. I kind of try and make them know that they're loved, because I'm usually, by the time I hire an actor, I'm a fan of theirs. They have blown me away in an audition, and I'm amazed by talent. I love actors so much. I love what they do. I love that they put themselves out there. And so I'm just this fantastic fan that's working with them and trying to, cajole the best performances out of them. And it's completely individual. Everyone's different, and part of it is being a psychiatrist, figuring out what they need, what they're comfortable with, because they won't necessarily tell you. They don't necessarily know. And so they're all different, everyone.
What did you intuit in having to work with Lisa as opposed to Mira when you were?
That's a great question, because they're very, very different. Mira is incredibly mean and angry, and Lisa, they're both the sweetest people. But Mira is very, very, method and very concentrated, and she really analyzes everything. Lisa is very intuitive, and she comes from an improv background. So that's a very different thing. And Lisa, also coming from television, actually Mira did it too, because in working with Woody Allen, applause, right? Working with Woody, that can only be like 2 takes sometimes. So you have to be right on the top of your game. But her favorite thing is kind of like to warm up over 5 takes, where Lisa is great right on the second take, sometimes on the first take. And, they're used to doing that on Friends and on TV. And because Lisa with the improv background, you got to get it right first. So there's the 2. And so what you do is you figure out, even when you're shooting, you do a certain amount of rehearsals to kind of get Mira up. And then Lisa's like holding back because the camera's not running. And so Mira is where she needs to be, and Lisa's right where she needs to be on the second or third take. So they come together if I'm doing a 2-shot where they're both in at the same time. And there was a lot of that. So it was kind of timing. And again, you're not telling them you're doing this. This is something you're figuring out and quietly doing, just to kind of make them the most comfortable and get the best performances you can. And people always applaud the take system that I talk about. Yeah. So, yeah.
You said that comedy saved your life, and comedy is incredibly therapeutic. Going to high school reunions, I guess, are therapeutic as well. Did you ever go to a high school reunion?
I did. I went to a high school reunion. I'm a very odd. I was like a ghost in high school. It was the way my brain works. Everything went too slow. So I went to high school like 2 or 3 days a week, and they didn't care as long as you did well on your tests. So, and I was...
Wait, what does that mean? You went to high school 2 or 3 days a week?
That's all I did. The rest of the time, I was, robbing banks, murder, whatever. No, I was, this is really going to get the women. I was learning electronics, ladies. I was learning to be an electronics engineer in my spare time. That's right. I was already doing like college work on my own, and I got my first-class broadcaster's license, right, ladies? And so things like that. And now they count the amount of days that you go to school, and you can't graduate unless you do a certain amount of days. And now I'm probably going to lose my diploma because it's going to be on the internet now. What will I do? You're not allowed to work at Fox without a high school. No, but yeah, and so the teachers were very nice in the sense that, well, he understands what's going on. He's doing fine. We don't have to keep tabs on how often he's here. And so it suddenly went. So when I went to my high school reunion and I was fairly successful, they were like, who are you? No, there were people that were in my high school that I knew from elementary school, and they kind of remembered me and stuff. So it was not a negative experience, because by the time I had the nerve to go back, I already, and I wore a suit covered in money. Maybe that's garish. I don't know. But I just, you know, I'm like Romy and Michele. I wanted to make it. No, it was not a negative for me.
Which reunion was it?
It was the 15th.
15th.
It was the 15th. Yeah.
Is there anything funny about electrical engineering?
You know, I'm about the funniest thing that's ever come out of electrical engineering, which is not a really good, you know, that's not a good. It's, you know, it's funny. Electronics engineering could be really funny if there's like 15,000 volts on a post and somebody, yeah, you can get a really great like backflip and stuff and like all kind of.
So I'm wondering if this was just my imagination. Was Mira, didn't she seem like she was taking on a Keanu Reeves persona? Did anybody else think that? That she was talking and acting and moving like Keanu Reeves?
Let me just say, it's Keanu that stole from Mira. And we're going to put that out there, and that's a fact.
No one?
You know what she did, and this is a key thing, you know, that we changed, is that Romy and Michele in the play, and I think in the concept and the script, we're going to kind of be identical sounding, and really kind of twins not real twins, but obviously. And Mira very cleverly, and I felt the same thing. That was another reason why she was great to cast, because we thought exactly the same. Is that Lisa was going to have this voice which is relatively high, and so Mira went low. And she had just come from a movie where she had done a high voice too. So this was another thing. And what she's doing there, which is, even though she's from L.A., her parents were obviously transplants, because she's doing a Philadelphia/Maryland accent, a tri-state area accent. That's why she has Camaro, all that kind of stuff. That's from where I'm from. That's so it's all in that. And she's kind of from the New York area, so she was aware of that. So that's what you're hearing in that, and the low voice.
The next time you watch Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, you're going to think of Mira from this movie.
Remember in The Matrix where he says he invented Post-its? You know, that's pretty much from there. I will admit that.
So we're going to open up for questions from the audience. Where are the microphones, please?
We got a question right over here to your right.
To the right.
Hi. Your costumes, of course, are iconic, and I think it's the same costume designer from Clueless. Am I right about that?
It is. It was a friend of mine, Mona May, who I had worked with multiple times before, and she had done Clueless. I think she probably even did Ladies Room. We went all the way back to that. I can't quite remember, but she is fantastic. And you know, anything I would ask her to do, she was completely on board, and I just love her. So it's super easygoing, makes the actresses super comfortable. And if you can really go through Romy and Michele and just look at. I mean, we really, really worked hard on the colors and the palette and the way they're coordinated with their backgrounds and how bright the colors are. The whole idea that I wanted to do is they were living inside a Vogue magazine. That was kind of their life, and that pays off and works into the dream aspect of things too. So, and Mona was the perfect choice for that. She can be very subtle, and then she can go totally crazy, but still real enough that it works in the context of a character and an emotion and everything. So, just really, I love her anytime, yeah.
Question?
Center to your left.
Center left, here.
Nice placement of Deep Space Homer, and you never get a chance, people like me don't get a chance to thank heroes for some of their other work, and this is not one of those cases, but regarding your work on season 5 of The Simpsons, best season ever, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The Simpsons is a great blessing because the way I think is very surreal, just like you see in Romy and Michele. I made that much more surreal than it was. I'm a big fan of flexible reality. I talk about that. I do it on The Simpsons all the time. I did it on a very weird show, surreal show called Get a Life with Chris Elliott. I see those fans of that. That was a fun show to create with him, and so The Simpsons is a great place that I'm still there. We're only on the 30th season. And Fox says we'll soon be in profit. That's what they're claiming. So maybe if we go another 30 years. But the surreal nature is very expensive. For instance, when I was saying I added Lisa getting hit by the car. That was something I wanted to do because, I see a beautiful woman and I go, wouldn't it be great if she get hit by a car? It's just the way my mind works. It's another thing for therapy. But the studio kept calling me and saying, do you really want to do the car? Do you, it's going to take a lot of time and we can save some money. This is what happens and why you have to fight for the things that you care about. And so I had and I was starting to, you start to question yourself after a while. But I figured, no, she has to get hit by a car. And so that was one of the clues that she's in a dream, is that she survives that so easily. And again, you write a joke like that, and I'll write the joke, and I'll instantly know, and it's not a joke, oh, that's $75,000, because that's how much it's going to cost. Sometimes it's going to be $150,000, because that's how much a day can cost, So you figure that out, and it's a terrible thing to be a director. And I actually talked to James Cameron about this. I said, how could you write Titanic? Because it was so expensive, and he just had to shut off that part of his mind when he's writing it. Because if you thought about how expensive it was going to be and how many things were going to go wrong, you couldn't write the next page, And there are people at Fox that literally say, even though that was the most successful movie, financially successful movie of its time, that they still would not make it today because it was such a nightmare. It almost destroyed the studio, yeah. So the studio guys were like, I would say, if I could go back in time, even knowing how successful it would be, I would still say no. So that's what you're kind of dealing with. And then, so you write a joke, it's going to be $75,000. You think it's very funny. And suddenly you're on the set, and you actually have a real person, a real stunt person, who you have to, put on a launcher. So the car's coming by, and she's right at the corner of the car on a hydraulic launcher that shoots her into the air, and she lands on the roof. And so you're suddenly going, maybe I'm going to kill this wonderful stunt woman. And she made it worse. She brought her mother that day. Yeah, because she was so proud. And, look, I'm going to get hit by a car, Ma. And I kept picturing, the mother going, you killed my daughter for a joke. So this is the fun of comedy.
Question?
We have a question right in the center.
Hello. I love the choreography. Who came up with it, especially at the end? Again, that choreographer, I both love and hate musicals, and in a lot of the ways I do The Simpsons, and if you watch my Simpsons episodes, it's all about things that irritate me or annoy me in the world. And part of it is badly done musical dance numbers. But then at the same time, I love them. I can't watch West Side Story without just bawling my eyes out all the time. It's stunning. It's just stunning. Again, the camera movement mixed with that Leonard Bernstein music, it's amazing. So I wanted to do everything in this. I wanted to do something that was a beautiful dance, that was also hilarious, that was also moving. And Smith Words, who is the choreographer, and she's worked with Madonna, she worked with me. I actually was a fired dancer in a little movie you can see called Medusa, Truth or Dare. Yes, and everybody's going to be running to see that. Yeah.
It's out now, or?
You probably can find it on something. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Medusa, Truth or Dare.
Medusa, Truth or Dare, starring the red-haired Julie Brown. Very, very funny. But she completely understood how to do the best choreography in the world because, she had worked with Madonna, she worked with the top people, and understood how to make fun of it. So I would tell her moves that I hated. We have to put those in because people will laugh at these things finally and give me some satisfaction that they understand that it's bullshit. And then also mix it in with a great song and great camera movement and some nice movements that'll also pull on the heartstrings. And so so she would come up, I would tell her a movement, and then she would come up with a movement, and then we mixed and matched all the things that annoyed me, all the things she came up with. And then they would show me, they rehearsed that. That was another thing. The studio was very nervous. I was nervous about how long that was going to take to shoot. It was one of the fastest things we shot because we kept rehearsing it for a month. So by the time they were ready and the cameras were ready, they never made a mistake, those three. They were perfect. And again, Alan Cumming, one of the reasons you often want Brits is they understand comedy and drama perfectly. And if you look at Alan's face, he has the perfect attitude. He's just a tiny bit too sincere. He's not over the top too sincere, but he's just a little bit wrong. And the women took a cue from him, and I said to them, look at Alan. He understands what this is, and so that it kind of works perfectly, that you're sort of looking at the right person at the same time. And I worked with Ray Villalobos, who is a terrific cinematographer. Because that's another thing.
people make these, they make these comedy movies, and they have no cinematic value whatsoever. And I don't understand it. It's just like television. It's like these static shots once back and forth. And I love camera movement, and I love Scorsese and Mike Nichols and Steven Spielberg. There's no reason why comedies can't have some of that great movement and some of this. So there's shots in that movie that are right from Haskell West, or, you know, people that I've loved and shots that I've loved, and I put them in. And the studio was annoyed by that. They actually came to me and they said, you know, your shots, they're too interesting. That was actually a note that I will take that to my grave, that horrible. And, you know, and again, you have to kind of keep your vision and say, no, we can do some interesting shots. It's not going to kill the comedy. It didn't kill the comedy in The Graduate. And so Ray Villalobos shot Urban Cowboy. And that was like the beginning of Steadicam. It was an early time in Steadicam. So he was able to dance with John Travolta on the floor. The camera's dancing, which is what you see Tarantino do in Pulp Fiction. But that's really from Ray and Urban Cowboy. He's just doing the same thing. And so I now had Ray, and it was the same thing, dance with the actors. And that's what a lot of those shots are. And then they added the overhead stuff and all that stuff. So it was a combination of Smith Words, Ray Villalobos doing great work, and just very carefully working that out, shot by shot and movement by movement. Luckily, over the course, because in between shooting and during rehearsal, they were going to dance class. And so we were just building it bit by bit, and we had time to do it. And it came out in a way that, still kind of delights me when I see it.
The Medusa film is not available on any format, according to IMDb.
That again, is because of Congress.
Well, but if
that's how bad it was. I apologize.
But if you have access to a print, I think you should bring it next year. I think it would be fantastic.
I will do that, yeah.
Question?
Far left.
Far left. Did you say left?
Left.
Left.
I'm reminded of when Norman Lear was here a few years ago and spoke to us and shared his brilliance. And I see it in you as well, someone who has shaped the social conscience of this country.
And yet, Norman has so much more money than I do.
Exactly. But my question is this, I mean, in your shows, clearly, whether it was Get a Life or Larry Sanders or Gary Sandley, helped to shape so many issues in The Simpsons, of course, in our country. But you do it on a venue, you do it on television, and not so much in the movies. Is there a reason? Is it just harder to do it in that expanded, area?
It is, and I'm sure you've had this conversation. The kind of movie that Romy and Michele is, first of all, when I got the script for that movie, I was amazed that this is coming from Disney Touchstone. I said, a major studio wants to make a movie about, weird outsiders that can have this much darkness, And I went in and I met with them, and I told them all my ideas, how I was going to, push the surreal aspects of it, push the darkness of it, and push the emotional relationships. And they were like, great. And then, I did the rewrite on the script with Robin. Robin was fantastic. You would ask her, say, okay, add a line here, do this moment here, and she would execute it brilliantly. It was great. Add Lisa getting hit by a car, all this kind of stuff. And it was just great. They asked me to fire Robin 5 times. I mean, that's also what they did. They come to me and say, you can get rid of the writer if you want. I said, no, she's got a great voice with these characters, and she was very amenable to doing these things at that time. So we were having this great time, pulling all this together. And I got the exact script that I wanted with all the things in it, all the weirdness that you see and all the darkness you see. And I was always like, this is not going to be a giant mainstream movie. This is not going to be Clueless. I don't think, and I think Disney must understand this. So I make the movie, cut it together, and and I had like one little preview, which was not. They give you the worst electronic projection back then. It was really terrible. It wasn't even HD. It would be standard, and it was playing all the wrong colors and everything. But then finally, you get a real preview. Each preview costs like $40,000, and the studio came for the first time, and the head of the studio came for the first time, and we did exactly what I thought we would. We had people going crazy for the movie that were our people, the cult people. And then there were a lot of the mainstream audience was just like, what the fuck's going on with these women? And, you know, it was disturbing to them. They didn't want to see the darkness. They were here for a lighter, clueless time and whatever. And right after the movie played, even before we even saw, you know, there was going to be any kind of reaction to it that was, and I was ready for that because I had a whole career of this. The head of the studio comes up to me and says, "It's very unusual." And I knew, oh, fuck, I'm in such trouble now. And it was true. From that point on, there was a pressure to try and make it much more usual. And even though, like No Doubt, which opens the movie, they were very on the edge at that point. They had not completely broken, especially before the movie had come out. And they were very upset that I put in something that was that edgy and it wasn't a clear, sweet, hug you hit. Because that's part of what a movie tries to do a lot of times is hug you all the time. And they get really nervous when it's not hugging the audience. They don't give you guys enough credit that you can go through some really difficult times and then maybe get hugged at the end, you know. But you know, so they were pushing me to change that. And then No Doubt broke pretty big. And of course they called me up, you know, it's near the release of the movie. They said, "Could you put more No Doubt in?" And I'm like, they're too big now. We lost our chance to make a thing. So that's the kind of fight you get into in terms of what's mainstream, what isn't, and what is edgy, you know. And again, particularly around women, they get very nervous about that. Did that answer your question in any way?
Was that one of Justin Theroux's first
It was one
roles?
of his very first roles, and you know, it was a tricky part. You know, again, this is you know, Marsha Ross brings me somebody. I needed someone who has a tiny part, but yet had a movie star quality. And that's hard to find because if they have a movie star quality, they're a movie star, you know? So you had to find someone that had a presence but was going to do a very tiny role. And Justin just, you know, he blew me away, like right away, you know? Every single person I cast in that movie was my first choice. They all wanted to do it. We got them the first time. And, you know, I cannot recommend those actors more to all of you. They're so talented. They're just stunning.
We'll take another question. I'm just wondering, is there anyone, either for The Simpsons or for another movie, that you haven't worked with that you really would like to work with?
I've been so lucky. Oh, you were asking me why I didn't do more movies. Like I said, it's the kind of movies I want to do are odd and surreal, and so the Romy and Michele type of movie, which was about $17 million, about 30 days, maybe a little less. It was probably 28 days, I think. I'd have to go back and look. That kind of went away. That kind of went away. A movie you can do like that. So you can do it now. You would maybe get 6 million, 4 million, or something like that, and everybody would be using like one bathroom, like in the middle of the woods or something like that, and you'd be shooting it in like 17 days or 20 days and 21 days. And it's so difficult to do that and to get people to do that who aren't just very first starting out. And that's one of the reasons you sort of wind up staying in TV. And The Simpsons, one of the reasons I've stayed with The Simpsons through the 31st season or whatever it is that I can write a joke where someone gets hit by a car and it costs the same as someone sitting on the couch. It's not $75,000. It's not half a day. It's just whatever comes out of my head, you know, you can see on the screen for the same price that we already have. So that's why there's not more movies. One of the reasons there's not more movies that I can do, and one of the reasons I stay with The Simpsons and the budgetless universe. Yeah.
Do you have any film scripts hanging around that you?
I'm working on, you know, in all these years, I've developed various things, and you know, I was going to do the life story of Richard Branson, which is a fantastic film, and I've worked with Richard, and I adore him, and someday it will make a great film. Yeah, he's a really interesting person. And it was very important to me because he's an example of compassionate capitalism. You know, we all love capitalism in this country. The problem is when it becomes so greedy that it's psychotic and it's designed to destroy people. Branson doesn't do that. You know, he started his businesses when he was 13 years old with his cousins and his friends, and everyone he's ever been in business with, even if they've broken up, they're still friendly, and they still say good things about him because he was always honorable in what he did. And no one's perfect, but it was a great example of that he would often make choices that weren't just money, that were also about, you know, being compassionate. While you make $1 billion, you can do both. You don't have to be a creep to make $1 billion, and that was sort of the point of the movie.
And I love the fact that he started the Council of Elders. He got together
Yes.
Archbishop Desmond
Tutu,
Tutu,
yeah.
and all of these older, wiser people from around the world to talk about how you can change the world and do good. And people don't really associate him with that as much, but he does a lot of things. I belong to an organization that had him on a list to give a prize to. I can't say what it is because, well, I forgot we're streaming. I shouldn't have said that.
Cut the stream. Cut the stream. Yeah.
Question?
Yeah, we have a question right here in the center.
Center.
Yes, your movie was hilarious. You found this whole group here laughing all over again after all these years. Did you ever think of a Romy and Michele 2?
You know, it's again, because we're all quality hounds, it has to be something that's really, really good. And so, you know, there's been various attempts that haven't involved everybody, and the same thing happens. It's like, believe it or not, even though you have Romy and Michele, if you try and redo it, you start to get the same notes again, which is like, can everybody be nicer? Does it have to be as dark? You know, can the movie be sweeter? And that's not what it is. You know, and you can look around and see there's been, in a way, other versions, and it misses some of the darkness that's key to it. You know, the edge is key to it, and that it's no one ever really learns. It's like you go back into it, and they just try and smooth it out. And the saddest thing any of you would ever see would be a smoothed out Romy and Michele. And you know, what happens is an audience doesn't necessarily have to think that deep about something. They just come out and they go, you know, that wasn't very good. You know, that kind of ruined the first one when I really. So you know, but this is what happens in the minutiae. So it's hard. It's not, you know, it happens more now. It's been better for women now. It's been better for edgy comedy now. It's been better for surreal comedy. Things have gotten better, but it's still not wide open for it. And it's particularly not wide open for it beyond a certain budget. You know, the bigger the budget, the more all the sharp edges have to be, you know, just pushed away, filed down so that everybody likes it, so they can't find anyone who has anything negative to say. And the instant you have an audience that never says anything negative, you have a piece of crap, I promise you. Good stuff always offends someone. So, you know, it's just, there's just never anything, you know, when you try and please everybody, you wind up pleasing no one.
I got the signal that we have one more question. Who's had their hand up for? I think I've seen your hand. Can we get a microphone to this gentleman in the second row? Where are the microphones? Did the microphone people leave?
Go for it.
What? Yeah, I wrote the song Spider Pig, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. It did go to number 23 in the UK, and I couldn't be more proud. I couldn't. That song was a song. I wrote the lyrics to that song. It took longer to type them up than it did to write them. It's that deep. It's that deep. Yes. Why you're saying that's what you shave to? I pictured someone shaving to it when I was writing. I said, "This is really an excellent shaver. This is a good one for that."
Is this something that you can sing for those of us that don't know it? No?
Do
No?
you guys all know it?
Yeah.
Okay, now believe me, this is going to be tough because a lot of you, you're looking at someone with this level of talent, and you're about to see it shine brighter than possibly you've ever seen any human being show an ability. It's kind of like the Beatles all crushed into one person. But so try and take it easy. Spider Pig, does whatever a spider pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, great
Yes,
way to
a
end it.
human wrote that. That is correct. No computer help, no artificial intelligence.
Wow.
That is all my brain.
Thank you, David Merkin.
Thanks for doing that.